friends, welcome to the fourth part on selling and transaction analysis. In this first part, we covered the importance of building assertive communication and the fundamentals of building good interpersonal relationships to be able to be effective salesmen. The second part, we looked at Eric Berne's basic three ego states, parent, child and adult, and how understanding these ego states helps you build interpersonal relationships and communicate better. The third part, we looked at when two people transact, when two people interact, what are the different ego states that come into play and what are the different types of transactions that come into via complementary, cross and ulterior transactions. Now, in this particular video, I'm going to talk about stroke. What is stroke? Stroke is a unit of interpersonal recognition. Any transaction that you do results in a stroke, and each stroke results in some value in building the relationship or breaking the relationship. So there are four types of strokes, primarily divided into category positive strokes and negative strokes. Positive strokes may be categorized as conditional positive and unconditional positive, whereas negative strokes can be categorized as conditional negative and unconditional negative strokes. So when you transact, if we land up doing a complementary transaction, probably you will create a positive stroke value. Whereas if you cross transactions, you will create a negative stroke value. The ulterior transaction, it will depend upon what the ulterior transaction has been able to achieve. If you complement the ulterior transaction, you will get a positive stroke value. If you cross an ulterior transaction, you will end up getting a negative stroke value. Before we get into understanding each of the four stroke values and where that is coming in from, there's a beautiful concept that I want to share with you all, and this is known as the emotional bank account. Every individual in their brain has got an emotional banker sitting, and they sit out with whenever two people meet for the first time, there's a ledger that opens up. In this ledger, there's a debit column and there's a credit column. Whenever you interact with an individual and it results in a positive stroke, you will get deposits made into this emotional bank account. And if you land up crossing transactions or making ulterior transactions, there will be a withdrawal out of your emotional bank account. So this banker is very smart. It can pick up small gestures, small tones, body language. Everything is contributed to in a particular manner. For example, like classical example that I give, that I meet someone and if you call that individual by his name and you recognize him well, it will result in, oh, this person recognizes me, this person is interested in me. It will give you a stroke value. You compliment someone, it will result in a positive stroke value and you will get some deposits made. But if you cross a transaction, you cut, you don't respond to an individual the way he wants you to respond, this will result in a negative stroke value. So primarily whenever we interact, there are classically four kinds of strokes that we land up giving. The positive, let me give you an example of a positive, conditional positive stroke. What is a conditional positive stroke? If someone does something good, you go and appreciate. Nice tie, good for achieving your target. The doctor has prescribed, you go and tell him, thank you very much doctor for your prescription support. All this is conditional to them doing something, and you acknowledge that, or you recognize that, or you communicate that, whichever ego states are working in, and the person says thank you to you. This complementary transaction will result in a positive stroke value. Positive strokes give you a low value deposit, but nevertheless it's a deposit. However, you do something negative where you cross a transaction, you snap at an individual, you frown at an individual, you ignore an individual. Even these gestures, the emotional banker is able to pick up. They will do a withdrawal. The classical negative strokes that we give in our normal upbringing is abusing someone. We give bad words to someone. So you tell someone is useless. All these are small ways in which we land up giving negative strokes. And these negative strokes will create a withdrawal. What is the classical thing about our upbringing is that we have become masters in giving conditional positive stroke and unconditional negative stroke. Now, what is an unconditional negative stroke? When you say someone is useless or when you abuse someone, this particular state or this particular comment is not subjected to the action. Very seldom we will go and tell the person that I am angry with you because you did this. Generally we'll say you are useless, you are good for nothing, or we'll dish out on abuse. And abuse is a classical example of unconditional negative stroke. And when you give unconditional negative strokes, it creates huge withdrawals. So high level withdrawals happen due to unconditional negative stroke. Even when you do cross transactions, when you snap at an individual, when you are angry with an individual, you land up giving unconditional negative strokes through your body language, through your communication. Your different ego states start communicating, you become a rebel, and that results in taking away a lot of value out of the relationship. Whereas when you give conditional positive strokes, you make low value deposits. Over a period of time, between a salesman and the customer, they will be able to build in this multiple transactions keep happening, and over a period of time the bank account is in a manner that there is more withdrawal and less deposits. The doctor has sometimes written a prescription or he's done something good, you fail to acknowledge, also will cause in a withdrawal. Now the trick about emotional bank account is that we need to learn the art of giving conditional negative strokes and unconditional positive strokes. Now unconditional positive strokes and conditional negative strokes only can be given by an adult ego state. Most of the period of time when we are communicating, when a rep is communicating with a customer, he generally lands up communicating from a contaminated space. So his either child ego state speaks or the parent ego state speaks, and he is not able to communicate right, and he lands up usually reacting to whatever the customer is saying, and these reactions over a period of time create a negative emotional bank account. However, if they learn very consciously to be able to give conditional negative strokes and unconditional positive strokes, which is done by a free talking adult, it can be done only by an adult ego state. If he is able to follow these things, he will be able to give better strokes and create a very positive bank account. So this is in the fourth part. We've just covered the understanding of an emotional bank account, how various kinds of transactions will result in giving you a stroke, and this stroke can be positive and negative, and depending upon in what circumstances you give it, it will be conditional or unconditional. The whole effort of transaction analysis is to help your adult speak more often, thereby he's able to give unconditional positive strokes and conditional negative strokes, and thereby increasing the deposits into the emotional bank account, building a strong relationship, which is so critical to help you sell better, help you build interpersonal skills, and help you be successful salesman. Keep watching my video. Thank you very much.